Welcome, everybody, to another week of Wealth Wisdom, where we're helping you build wealth and legacy.
Companies are like an organism trying to survive.
It's always a risk when you're investing in a company that's purely tied to someone's brand.
45% of Americans have gone into debt for a Disney trip. Welcome, everybody, to another week of Wealth Wisdom, where we're helping you build wealth and legacy. I'm Justin Obi, and with me, again, we have the amazing principals of Fox Hill Wealth Management, Eric Benz and Bill Ryan. How are you guys doing today? What's going on?
You go right ahead, Benz. How are you?
Another condo thing. I have to replace the condenser on the roof for our AC. So that was
Squirrels?
a good one this morning. Yeah.
Squirrels gnawing at the wires or something?
No, this time it's just like old. Like when we moved in, it's 12, 13 years old. And like the cooling agent in the basement is newer and they don't match up. So now it frosts up in the basement and the airflow doesn't move through properly. I don't know. I'm not an expert. All I know is my neighbor was complaining about like a high pitched noise coming from our unit. So anyway, fun stuff.
Yeah. How many condos in the building?
There's 6 units.
Okay. So you're on the condo association? Do you run that, or who's the manager? Who's the trustee?
I stay as far away from that as possible. So there's a president and a treasurer. They do most of this stuff, but it's a pretty cheap HOA. Like we don't pay a whole lot, but you get what you pay for kind of thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was telling Bill about the squirrel issue earlier this week.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand like what they get into when they're buying a condo. There's a lot of stuff to consider. How well funded is the condo association? Leadership, are they actually doing what they're supposed to be doing? So
a lot of personalities to deal with.
Yeah. Well, the big thing too is, which everyone in our buildings definitely seems very trustworthy, but is people have access to the bank account, like siphoning out funds. That's usually the issue that sometimes comes up there.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, no, but the other thing too, just keeping I feel like one of the biggest things is always, do you build a reserve or because people always lose it, right? When you move out. So it's, some people are, I don't want to put in, I'll just put in when we need to, right? You know what I mean? Big AC problem. Now I'll cut the check at the time. Or are you along the lines of, no, let's pay a little bit extra so when stuff does happen, there's some there. Two different schools of thought. But
yeah, and I don't know, can an HOA actually invest the money, or they have to have it sit in cash? Do you know that, Eric?
I have no idea. Bill, do you know the rules of that?
Oh, I'm sure they can, but it's just, again, you got to agree. Everyone's got to agree to it. So everyone's got to agree to how it's invested. Everyone's got to agree to, there's a lot of twists and turns or something like that. So probably for the most part, people just probably stay away from it, right? Just keep it in high yield savings if you are doing some type of reserve requirements. That way there's no, nobody telling you, hey, I told you that the market was going to go down here. I told you this was going to happen, right? And a lot of the Monday morning quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Won't be coming in. You say, hey, let's keep the principal as safe as possible and maybe gain a little interest on those reserves if you even choose to do the reserves. Sometimes, maybe a smaller one like yourself, Eric, like it's not a huge condo. They might not have a lot of reserves. It's just not something that,
Yeah.
Or you might only do it towards a certain project, right? Say if a whole building needed to be, what's it called when they take like with the mortar out of between bricks or something like that, repointed, right? Or something like that, right? You say, okay, we know this is going to happen in 3 years. We're going to start paying towards it now. Sometimes that helps on the resale too, because they say, hey, we have a reserve for this issue. So it's not like you're going to buy the place and then get punched in the mall 10 months later with a huge assessment, right? So.
Yeah, I know the president was like, I think there's 15 grand in reserves right now. And then the roof is like a flat roof and they have to redo like the tar on it, like every 15 years, something like that. So that's the big expense they're saving for.
Hopefully, big news this week. Hopefully, if you guys have to take out any type of debt on the condo association, you're going to get better rates getting into it right away. Big news this week. This past Wednesday, the Fed met and went jumbo. They went big. Everyone said 25, 50 basis points. What are they going to cut? They went big with the 50 basis points, cut. And as we expected, things started to rip. Market Dow Jones surpassed 42,000 for the first time amid growing optimism of the Fed Reserve's jumbo interest rate cut. Hopefully people are getting optimistic they can deliver a soft landing for the U.S. economy. S&P ripped again. They went up almost 2%, sitting at record highs right now. And NASDAQ. Eric, why did you exceed the 50 blips?
Yeah, I actually expected it. The one thing that you were sometimes reading online or reading from analysts was, if they're going to cut 0.25 or 50, like if they're going to cut at 50, does that mean they're seeing things in the economy that are giving them concern and they need to cut harder, faster? But clearly we see the market reacting positively to the rate cut itself. More people seeing it as a positive. Hey, we've already brought interest rates down to about 3%, which was a long battle, right? Weren't they? What was the height of the interest rate? It was like near 9% at one point.
Inflation.
You're talking about inflation, right?
Sorry, inflation.
Yeah,
near 9% 2 years ago. So they've done their job, and we're in the midst of a soft landing, I would say. Bill, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think definitely there's probably some concerns with the job market. Obviously, we had that big restatement of jobs. Was it probably like a month ago, right? At this point.
Yep. Big restatement.
Yeah. So I think I'm a more conservative person by nature. Just with the inflation numbers coming down where they were, I probably would have been more in favor of maybe like a 25 basis point like reduction and kind of see where we're going. The Fed was trying to get ahead of it in this case, whereas probably with the inflation, right, they were way behind, which caught, you know what I mean? We saw those massive numbers. I wish it's funny, right? I mean, you look back and you say, geez, why were they so far behind in that case? I mean, everything indicated inflation was going to be happening. I mean, you saw massive wage growth, all that stimulus money, all that free cash hitting the market. You got to think that's going to cause inflation, right? Numbers to go up, and they should have foreseen some of that.
Yeah.
They didn't. In this case, maybe they're trying to get and they were behind it, right? And the economy suffered because of it. We saw more than a 20% pullback, you know what I mean, in the market and things like that before things started going up again. And so I just think that they were trying to get in front of it, with this 50 point basis point reduction, and the market responded. I think, like you said, everyone liked the fact that they're trying to get in front of it. And maybe in this case, where in my mind, I'm saying do a 25 basis point, see how it goes. Again, hopefully with the 50 point, let's see how it goes. I don't want them to overreact because I do not want that inflation shooting up again. I think you talk to most people, I think that's the biggest problem that they're dealing with, right? It's just the increased costs everywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if we can hold steady, well, maybe we see some wage growth and some job growth. I think that will be huge for the economy.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that thinking, Bill. I think a lot of people were hoping just for a 25 point cut. Basis point cut. And a lot of people are saying it's a mixed reaction out there in the market today, with financial news pundits saying, hey, maybe they went too aggressive. Maybe it's not going to, I think it's going to inject a ton of money into the market. Obviously it will. Corporations are at all-time highs. A lot of people are saying, hey, what was the cause for such a big cut right away? Because there's a lot of great indicators right now. Some argue we're not even in a recession. Eric, what are your thoughts there? Why do you think they went such a high cut right out of the gate?
I think it was probably the slowing growth in jobs.
Yeah,
is my guess. But ultimately, who really knows? I know we tend to think of what the Fed's doing just in terms of our country, the U.S., but a lot of times they're looking at what the rest of the world is doing. And a lot of countries had already started implementing rate cuts. So the U.S. was late to the game there.
Yeah.
So maybe that was a reason why.
Although Bank of Japan increased their rates from 0% to 0.25%. And they've held steady this week as well. So
they got their own issues.
Quite a different situation over there.
Yeah. Population, not good.
That almost caused, just that alone, right, caused such a massive ripple across all economies, right? It's funny. Honestly, the U.S.'s inflation has actually been less than a lot of these other countries too. The fact that they did it before us, again, hopefully it doesn't cause too many issues down the line. But
yeah, I was reading this morning, actually, one analyst, I believe from JP Morgan, don't quote me on that, but I believe that's where he's coming from. And he was saying now what's happened is a lot of people are saying this indicates a regime change in the Fed, and that some people were expecting 2 more cuts this year. And so consumers are still waiting on the sidelines for those things to happen, right? So there might be a delay in a reaction, or oftentimes the initial cut doesn't juice the market as expected right away. Bill, any thoughts there? Do you think people will wait a little longer before refinancing or taking out that loan or buying a house? What do you think?
Yeah, other big purchases, right? Everything from car loans to appliances, things like that, right? That people might finance.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think? Yeah, very possibly. Because we'll see. The mortgages, basically, the rates have come down in anticipation of this cut recently anyway. So we're not going to see a massive, at least from last week, right? We're not going to see a massive reduction in prices. So, in mortgage rates, I guess, right? So we'll see. I think more along the lines of people are now a little more open, right? Those people who had those 3% rates, those 2.875, 275s are like, geez, I needed to move. I've needed to move for 2 years. And now it's going to hurt a little bit less when I need to take out my mortgage for that home when I sell this one. At least I think more stuff is hitting the market, which that's going to cause a stir. And then some people who, might have been a little more hesitant are saying, hey, this is going to save me, right? $200, $300, $400, $600 a month. You know what I mean? On their mortgage. I'm going to pull the trigger, and if they do it, I'll just refinance down the road. But it's a little easier pill to swallow. In the meantime, if say there is no more movement, right? They say at least I'm getting in. You know what I mean? At this number, I can lock in this rate, and possibly right down the line, I'll be able to refinance. But it's again a little more money that they're going to have in their pocket each month than what they were thinking about maybe 2 months ago, right? So
to me, that's what's interesting is a 50 basis point cut is significant, but it's not massive where I don't know if it makes consumers run out and buy a new car right now or anything. And what's interesting to me is what this means for everyday consumers. Eric, in talking to clients, what would you say, like, this is significant as to why it's significant for them? Do we pause? Do we wait?
I think, well, I'll tell you anecdotally for me personally, right? I bought my condo a year and a half ago. We locked in at a mortgage rate of like 6.2. So, I mean, Bill was saying it hasn't, even though it's come down a bit, right? It's not to the point where we're looking to refinance yet. We need more movement before you're going to see a bunch of people making moves out there. Yeah, it's just not significant enough yet.
Yeah.
But maybe for small businesses, this kind of stuff matters a lot, right? Because they have the scale that we don't have.
Yeah, for small businesses, for sure. If you're taking out a loan for your business, you might be able to get a lower rate today than you were last week. And I think things will adjust over time. Bill, any thoughts on how long that adjustment takes?
Oh, no, I think with stuff like that, it's immediate, right? A lot of these adjustable loans and stuff like that, they're going to see an immediate drop. And in homeowners too, who are using equity and things like that, home equity lines of credit, they're going to see a pretty immediate drop in their rate, which right away, right, that payment's going to go down, on an interest-only loan right away. So that month they're going to have more money. Hopefully they do it wisely, right? Put maybe some down on the principal and some down maybe on different expenditures that they might have been holding off of. But in that case, they'll see an immediate bump in their cash flow on a monthly basis, whether it's business owners or homeowners with equity lines and things of those natures.
Yeah, we have a few clients with collateral accounts where you might have a large position in certain securities that you don't want to sell. You take out a loan against them, and those rates got to 9% at one point. Now I see newer ones and they're variable rates. So they've come down to 7.5 is what I was looking at recently. But yeah,
interesting. Yeah, for sure. The other big news topic this week was Amazon cutting or requiring 5 days a week in the office starting 2025. And I think that's really interesting because it's a hot topic. A lot of people are saying, hey, we'll never go back. Amazon's saying you have to. I think just being in the office, there's a lot of value. There's pros and cons that you have to weigh. Bill, what are your thoughts? Do you want everyone in the office every single day? at Fox Hill, or?
I'm in favor of a blend, right? You know what I mean? I think people should be coming in if they're working that week, I think they should be coming in at least a few days that week. I do feel that having that blend is important. 5 days a week to me might be overkill in terms of employee satisfaction and retention. I almost think that maybe Amazon is trying to usher people out in a manner and see who survives, right? Type of thing. If we make this mandate and then maybe in 2026 we say, hey, we're gonna cut it back to 2, you know what I mean? You only have to be in the office 3 days a week or something like that. But those who have stayed on, right? We know where the loyalty lies and things along those lines.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel it's totally necessary to go to a full 5-day. Most people, a responsible employee who you trust, want to work with, I think is more than able to work from home 1 to 2 days a week, continue to be very efficient and productive for their company, and still maintain some of the things that everyone has such busy schedules and such busy lives. It's nice to be able to do a few things that do not affect your work at all at home, keeping the household moving and things like that. And like I said, still being productive and efficient. So I do feel like it's a way of they're trying to cut some of those people who may have been taking advantage, right, of some of the work from home stuff. And this is a way that those people say, oh, geez, I have to go in. I'm going to start looking for another job at a company that will accommodate that.
Yeah.
That's my thinking is it's a twofold thing that they're trying to do.
So you're a big fan of a blend. I think that's interesting. I think the blend is great. It allows flexibility for folks, but then there could be a lot internally in an office. Do you feel like that if some people who choose not to be there that day or just happen to be there not that day, do they miss out on what's going on in the office? Eric, what are your thoughts there? How do you pull that together where it's virtual and in person?
Yeah.
Do you think Amazon's thinking of that, or do you just think they're get back in for productivity's sake?
I think it's a mix of everything that's being talked about, right? There's benefits on the employee side. We're social beings. Even the most introverted people love to be around others. And that's how you build effective teams. That's how you build camaraderie, culture, all that stuff. So for the employee, it's good. From the employer's standpoint, they could keep an eye on everybody and make sure they're all happy. It's hard to truly build that culture if everyone's at home and barely communicating. I will say, when I go into the office, we have 2 offices at Fox Hill. We're in Dedham and we go down to Newport. I'll do 2 days a week at each spot, or sometimes 1 and sometimes 3. Either way, I find it so important to be around everybody.
Yeah.
And I miss out entirely on those days that I work from home. That being said,
but do you find yourself more productive sometimes at home?
Yes, certainly, because there's less of a distraction. Although they've done studies, right?
Yeah.
There are plenty of distractions at home. If you have kids, they're running around. You get up, you're like, oh, maybe I'll go and throw a load of laundry and fix this thing real quick, and you spent 30 minutes away from the desk. So there's that's a factor as well. I found this very interesting, is going back to Bill's point, was in the Fortune article about Amazon's forced 5-day week in the office. This is a layoff in disguise. One user complained on Reddit, return to the office or you're fired and we don't have to pay any severance or unemployment. So that's what a lot of the disgruntled Amazon employees were saying. And to be honest, I got a kid coming on the way, and I'm probably going to be working from home a lot this winter. And I couldn't imagine not having that flexibility. No one at our office is going to say a word. I'm going to feel it a bit being left out, and
I'll say something.
A little bit of that. Okay.
Nah, I'm just joking.
But I couldn't imagine having to go in 5 days a week and not having that flexibility.
Think about how much time you're going to get back in your life, right? Just all right, you said it's going to be winter, so you're driving in snowy conditions a lot, in traffic. It's already probably, how long does it? It's an hour 20?
In Massachusetts?
Let's say it does. Let's say it does, Bill.
Oh,
We want more snow for us skiers here.
Right?
2 hours of commuting a day,
So
kind of on the low end. So it's
10 hours of your life. sitting in a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even if
mean-
you weren't more productive during your working hours, but you just had 10 hours back, like I think that's what people are feeling, where they're like, hey, like at least give me some flex, do a hybrid 3 days a week. I think the problem is people abuse it.
Yeah, but that just means you have bad employees. I think like we have the hybrid model here, and I don't feel like anyone abuses it. Although, yeah, maybe in the past we have had people that have done that. But it's, if they're good employees, but maybe that's what Amazon's doing again, is they're weeding out the ones that are truly like Amazon loyal employees.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. One thing I will say is being in the office more, you have this like serendipitous moments of unplanned meeting. You're just like talking. We're talking to each other and it's, hey, shoot. And it's somehow we get on to business. It's always talking about business or the markets or financial planning or clients. And it's just like these serendipitous moments don't happen when people are working at home. And I think there's a lot of magic in that, especially for small businesses.
Justin, what was we were discussing this podcast like a few days ago, and you said you listed off all the things that you got done because multiple people were in the office and you could shoot ideas off of them. Like,
just
marketing. I can't remember.
For all of us. The other day, I was like, because we have a lot of events coming up for Fox Hill. And one was, we're going to have a fall social. We want our concept is like, hey, let's treat our clients like gold all the time. And so one way we're going to do that is events, bring people together. And just like a country club, your networking like is a massive value of being part of that country club. And I think we're going to deliver that for our clients. Like being a client of Fox Hill Wealth Management will allow you in access to these networking events. So the fall social was a perfect example. And I've been like, all right, how do we plan this? How do we get like alignment from our team on just a date? And you and I being in the office the other day, it was like, it just came up. We did it. We looked at the calendars. It was done within 5 minutes. That could have virtually taken, I send an email. Hopefully people respond.
No one's going to respond.
Like it's chasing people down, but like in person, it was like, hey, does this work? Yes, done. And we sent it out, hold the date. Now the invites are going out soon.
Right.
So that's just one example. I think there is magic in that, but I totally feel the same of having 3 kids, being a bit more present in the mornings or being able to work out more. If I get my 10 hours a week back from commuting. Bill and you and I are lucky we're close to the office, but not everyone has that. And it's just having that flexibility.
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, that's why I like the blend though. You know what I mean? So you can get a couple days in where you're like, hey, you can get a little bit of a longer workout in on those days that you're working from home and you could do some of those things. But at the same time, for team building, for communication, right? I don't think it's probably as big at our company, right? We're a smaller company, pretty close knit. That's something that maybe doesn't affect me. We're not going to see problems that say like an Amazon sees, right? It's just, it's a different animal, but it is very tough when you enter a new company to build rapport with your, you know what I mean, employees. If you are working, my wife works at a multi-international company, right? And people on her team are in London, Hong Kong, various other parts of the world. And she tells me sometimes about there are things that come up that would not come up if you worked every day with that person, because there would be a communication, there would be a conversation, and whatever you're thinking, someone might be thinking, oh, this person is slighting me or this person is whatever. It might just be in their own mind. And that would get solved in a 15-minute face-to-face conversation. It would not happen if you were in the office speaking with that person. And I just think things like that, they work really great when people know each other. Or excuse me, the work from home model works really great once you've established a team, once you guys have a good collaboration, all those things there have been done. But when you're entering a new spot and you go to immediately to a work from home, it's very tough to get that going, right? That person, more than likely, they're going to be jumping. They're going to leave that job, right? You're not going to build a lot of continuity, right? Because people are just going to see it as this is just a stepping stone. This is just a stepping stone. And they're not going to build mentorship, you know what I mean, with someone. They're not going to get that alliance with you know what I mean? A lot of people that, and honestly, it can hurt their career if you don't have people who are there looking out for you.
Yep.
Look at, you know what I mean? Because they have a vested interest, because they know you, they see you. Like I said, 4 days a week. You know what I mean? I'm not saying every day, but you can still build that with a 3 or 4 day at work, a work week. I just think that's really important, especially for people like younger people, right? You know what I mean? Who maybe aren't as established and are still learning. I'm still learning, right? I'm 42 years old every day. But when you're in your 20s and early 30s, you're picking up new stuff all the time. You know what I mean? It's so important. I almost think like your first jobs, like people look at the dollar signs, but it's like, where are you going to learn the most? Do you know what I mean? Where are you going to pick up the most information? Because that's going to lead to how well you do down the line, right? In your late 20s and 30s and 40s, having those people that you worked with who are really good at what they do and it tell you like little tricks that they learned, the mistakes that they made, right? That's huge. And if you're just working from home, like I said, I don't think you're going to pick that up as much.
Or even Bill, what's been big for me, learning from a lot of different advisors, is literally being within earshot, hearing them when they're in meetings. Like perfect example, like we never get that if you're working from home. I have a stat for you guys from a UChicago study. They did a study on 10,000 skilled employees at an Indian technology company when this company was moving to remote work. So what they figured out was that overall hours worked increased, but employee output actually declined slightly, even though hours were increased, and productivity fell 8 to 19%. So you're getting more hours when people are working from home, but it ain't efficient. So that's why the hybrid model probably is the best. I'm not sure why Amazon wants to go full 5 days a week, but it's
Yeah, I think Bill, you're right. Like Amazon's a different beast. And I think there's like big corporate like Amazon where they need everyone in and it's super strict, right? You clock in, you clock out, your hours are tracked, like vacation time is tracked. Then there's the small business that needs to move really fast. And like my past jobs, because I've had, it was always like hybrid, like unlimited vacation kind of concepts. And people didn't abuse it. They came in, and I think it builds trust, rapport, but people want to be in the office more than not. And if they're good team players, and I think it does show. I would agree, hybrid model for the win.
I'll give you an example. Well, for us, right, our business is servicing clients, servicing advisors, and we need to retain the talent when it comes to advisors. I couldn't imagine making our advisors come into the office every day. I think there'd be a revolt. And that's our talent. Is Amazon going to lose out on some of the talent? Maybe, but they already have that, what the cost of that is in their head already calculated, and they don't think it's a big deal. Very interesting.
And if you look at the tech, there's been a lot of layoffs in tech the past year and a half. There's a lot of willing people who are probably willing to line up and work for Amazon. Great benefits, great stock. I know I have a client who works for Amazon and she gets a lot of stock, a lot of RSUs, right? Restricted stock units and things like that she's benefited from by working there. There's a lot of people, I think, who are willing to do that because they pay pretty well. They got great benefits and you're able to participate in the growth of Amazon as well within your compensation. So I don't think they're going to be too short of suitors, you know what I mean, as well, especially with what's gone on the last 15 months in tech, right, where there's been a significant amount of layoffs and things like that. There's a lot of talent on the sidelines looking to get a job.
Yeah. I would love to hear from everyone listening. Just drop us a follow on Instagram at Foxhill Wealth. Let us know what you think about this. DM us, slide into the DMs, as the kids say. But yeah, I would love to hear back. What is interesting is that I am surprised Amazon's doing this. I think like stock's up right now, but I don't know if it's in response to this. But the other thing, the reason I am surprised is if you have a fully remote culture, you're allowed to. It enables you to offshore a ton of talent and start to find talent where it's a little cheaper to pay throughout the world, expediting globalization very fast. And I think a lot of people, at least in this country, might not be thinking about that when they're saying, I want a full-time remote culture, but I think it's a bad in the long run for a lot of workers here. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's a curveball I'm throwing at you both.
Yeah, no, I don't think I definitely don't think they're thinking about stuff like that. They're thinking about what their job is, again, I think most people think their job is secure and everything like that, right? Until it's not. They're not, people don't anticipate being like, oh, geez, they could hire someone in Argentina for a fifth of my wage. And that person right now is doing really well. You know what I mean? In Argentina, they're more than happy to get paid it. So
and they don't have to immigrate to the States.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
It's not being.
Yep. It is interesting.
Yeah, I think the whole thing, I think the rumors, I believe they're 100% true. I think it's forced layoff, the whole thing. I had a sibling, I have multiple siblings working in big tech companies. And I remember one of them in the pandemic was like taking naps in the middle of the day. I was like, what is going on here? So yeah, that's my
Nothing wrong with a short power nap if you can get it in.
I don't know.
I would love to. That's why as soon as I retire, like that's definitely being brought into the equation in my life. Those very few days when I do get to take a nap, those are great days. And I have a client who he's self-employed and things like that. So he is a therapist, right? So he'll speak with people from 7 a.m. to maybe 11 or 12. Then he takes a couple hour break each day where he works out, eats, and then takes a short nap before he then sees people in the afternoon. And I feel like that's great. If you could do that where you work in the morning, and again, this is someone who maybe has a little more free time, is married with no kids, but if you are able to, hey, they even say a 15-minute nap, right? If you're able to close your eyes and meditate, something like that is huge. There's like reduction in like cardiovascular disease of like 30 to 40% and things like that. And people who are regular nappers, just refreshes the brain, gets you going. Little siesta.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely better than closing your eyes is definitely better than, tuning out for a moment on your phone, going to Instagram or Truth Social.
Great segue. I was waiting for
because
no, we're spending way too much.
Yeah, but another this week, and former President Donald Trump, his lockout is basically up. He's facing a $2 billion decision. He could sell a lot of that stock right now. He's saying he will not sell any of it, and that it's just too valuable for him. He loves that he can get the word out, and he has full control after being kicked off Twitter for a long time, just being recently reinstated to Twitter and Meta. I can't blame him. Eric, what do you think about Truth Social? You think how's the stock looking? From an investment perspective.
From an investment standpoint, I would stay far away. We don't own it in our strategy. When we have had clients asked to put it in their portfolio, we try to be completely honest about their profitability. A lot of times the client still insists and we'll put it in the portfolio. But I pulled a stat for Truth Social. Revenue in 2023 was 4.1 million, and the company posted a net loss of 58.2 million. So seems
healthy.
Highly overvalued under normal metrics. It's a play on the presidential race. So as we've seen the race, 6 months ago when Biden was running against Trump, Truth Social was at a valuation of $9 billion. I don't know what it's at today. I think it's 2 or 3, right? So you've seen it come down significantly as the race has gotten tighter. So I wouldn't view it as an investment. If you're going to buy it, I would view it as a bet. You're placing a bet. If you're going to buy it, you're placing a bet Trump's going to win. But the race is tighter. I think what you were saying too, Trump being on Twitter, X, what you want to call it, he did an interview there, which is almost betraying his Truth Social guys and betraying the
well, he's got to go where the attention is. He's got to go everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. Betrayal.
But I mean, that if he was able to force Elon Musk onto Truth Social, do the interview there instead, probably could have propped up the company more, created more revenue.
Interesting.
It's just very interesting.
Yeah. Bill, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a political? Eric's saying it's a measure of the race.
Yeah. I mean, I think at a certain point you have to look at a stock price of any company is a metric of how much the worth of that company or the revenue of that company times, or their earnings times however many times, like years out, right? That you're willing to pay for it. And if you look at where things are with that company based off the revenue numbers, Eric, that you just stated, things along those lines, they don't support it. There's certainly times where we buy companies that with high multiples and things like that, because we feel like the future growth of that company and the future profitability of that company is going to go up over time, which in turn is going to make their stock price go up over time. But I just don't see it right now with that. There is a lot of competition. There's a lot of, you basically have with Elon Musk purchasing Twitter, he has the stuff that Truth Social is trying to do. He has done in a way, but with a much, much bigger user base, much better tech, everything like that. So you're going against huge competition. And like you said, Facebook coming out and saying Mark Zuckerberg has said he's not going to bend at the knee as much as he has, right, in the past and things along those lines. So now you're dealing with the titans in those areas saying that they're going to do what True Social has said that they want to do in terms of not silencing certain things or stuff along that nature. So how are you going to compete with that? So yeah, I think it is solely a bet. It's a gamble, right? That's how I would describe it. It is a gamble on, if he wins, you might see a pop in the stock price. Even if he does win, I don't know if there's a long-term viability with that company either way. So you're betting on the noise, basically, right?
Yep. We've seen companies based on someone's brand before in the past, right? When you think of Martha Stewart's company, and although Trump seems to be pretty immune to when issues arise in the public, it doesn't really hurt his brand. But Martha Stewart, obviously, when her brand tanked, that company ended up tanking. So it's always a risk when you're investing in a company that's purely tied to someone's brand. Yeah, we've had clients ask about True Social when they have tried to steer them to other companies we currently own. We own Facebook, which has Threads, which is a competitor, right? Mm-hmm. We own Google, which has social media, YouTube. There's all different kinds of alternatives that we know are, as Bill was talking about, are continuing to grow their earnings and are very profitable, and we see as high growth plays in the future. I think, Justin, do we still have you here or we lose you?
Yeah, we are.
No, I'm here. I'm just having some camera difficulties. But you're doing great.
I didn't know if people who've bought True Social or you've been hearing a lot about it in the news, what you're hearing on your end.
I don't know anybody talking about Truth Social, but that's sample size of one. I really don't know. I haven't heard. I was looking up before I lost camera. I'm on my crap built-in Apple camera here, but it looks sickly. What was interesting is like time to profit. And what I think time to profit is very interesting. So Truth Social's only been around for 2 years, just like to play devil's advocate here. In comparison, it took Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook when he launched 5 years to become profitable. I think it's pretty common in the tech world, at least, you got to go widespread. You're going to lose a ton of money when you're doing that. You have to build a big enough network for it to be viable. And a lot of these, that's why they're such great investments now, is because of the network effect they have. It's very hard for Meta to lose right now because they have such a big network effect. And so I know, just maybe they lost that much money, but
the talent they have at Meta. So when you think of like Mark Zuckerberg building that out, the understanding of what the vision, everything that goes along with an entrepreneur, someone like that, do they have that with True Social? I'm not even sure. Again, I don't know enough to really speak on it, but I don't know what the vision is or what hey, this is what we envision this being 5, 10, 15 years from now. I don't know what their end game really is there. I would put a lot more faith in a guy like Mark Zuckerberg, or, you know what I mean, over someone. And I honestly, I'm whatever you want to call it. I invest politically agnostically. I personally don't even think the president has that much to do with how the stock market's going to perform. I feel like companies are like an organism trying to survive. They'll do whatever they can to survive, to grow profits. They'll do it under any circumstances, any regime, any tax situation. They're going to be looking at all facets of their business And, that CEO, that board, they have a fiduciary duty to grow profits for their shareholders. And that's what and if they don't do it, some activist is going to come in, they're going to kick them out, and they're going to, you know what I mean? And they're going to try to do it to grow that stock price, right? That's a great thing about a capitalist economy. I just, so I would rather bet on talent. I just don't know what, and again, I'm maybe speaking out of turn because I don't really know who works for Trump Social at all.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what the vision is. And again, I haven't really looked into it either.
There's not a lot of analyst coverage for it, Bill. That's another big issue.
Yeah. I do think it's tough to analyze just because of that, Eric. I think a lot of the news has a liberal bias. They don't want it to succeed right now. And that's not a political statement. I think that is the truth in today's world, unfortunately. But I do agree with you, Eric. I think it's a gamble today if you're throwing money into it. It might pay off big if Trump wins.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. But at this point, it might be a political gamble.
It's also just such a difficult space to get into, right?
Yeah.
Like, how long has Facebook been the dominant force, and the only new really dominant entrant over the last decade has been TikTok, and that's it. So it's so hard to get into that space. It's even if if Truth Social is executing incredibly well, it doesn't matter. They could end up being the next Snapchat. So who ultimately knows?
Yeah. We'll see.
Even if it was the next Snapchat, I think that would be a huge success. That's
massive.
You don't want to downplay, but yeah, on that lower tier, right? Like of those types of networks. So,
yeah, I agree. I think we'll have to see. I don't think I think he's true to his word. I'm not sure. I don't think he'll sell. I don't think he has a reason to. He has more to lose than to gain if he does sell.
Yeah. And it's not about I don't think it's about the money for him too. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. I think this is another great episode, guys. It's always great chatting with you. Looking forward to next week. If all you listeners out there, thanks for being with us, and let us know what you want us to talk about next. We're always open. Our DMs are always open for you.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Guys.
Thanks a lot. Bye.